back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Joel.
And I'm Allison.
And today I want to start off by asking you guys, if you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
I spent way too much time
This
thinking
was
about
so
this.
hard.
And so I went a little more general, like not like a person, but someone who has a type of job.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
An ice cream salesman.
Oh, see, I figured you'd want to be like Bono or something and like get the high of the stage and the crowd for a day.
You know, there was a time in my life, yes, but I went completely the other direction to where like just selling people ice cream, making everybody happy.
I
You know,
do
like
love that.
nobody like is going to be upset.
No.
You know, like because I just feel like the demands on the other sid
Yes,
are like
that's
you're
true, too.
upsetting or letting somebody down, or
Yeah.
you can't make everybody happy, right? I heard someone say once to pastors, like, well, if you want to make everybody happy, don't become a pastor,
No.
sell ice cream. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm at
Yeah,
with this. Right?
exactly.
So that's,
You're not a taco. So you can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's me.
I know. I also struggled with this. I even asked Abby, I was like, what was your answer? Because I have no
She
idea.
did.
No, her answer wasn't helpful either. But so there are so many times where I wish I knew what my dog was thinking, because a lot of times I'm like, do you even have any thoughts in your brain? I'm not sure if you do. So I would want to be my dog, I think. First of all, I also want to know.
I went with Dr. Doolittle is what I was thinking you were going to answer with, like understanding animals, but you went into the
I just want to be my dog. Like, and also I was thinking, like, how does she view us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does she think about us? Plus, she takes so many naps. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good with that too.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great day. Yeah.
What about you, Abby?
Well, the other day when I was thinking about this, I was like, I think it would be really cool to be like a photographer on a like concert tour. But then I literally saw a TikTok from Hosier's concert photographer, and she was like, yeah, we got done with the show about this time. I was up until 5 a.m. editing photos. I'm like, that sounds exhausting. No, thank you.
I just want to take the photos, and then maybe there's somebody else that edits them.
Yeah. So my actual answer now, I think I just want to be a zookeeper. I think it would be cool to actually like get up and close with the animals just for a day. Not something I want to deal with every day. I know it stinks. I know
Just for that.
it's kind
I
of
was
a
just
gross
thinking,
job. Yeah. But just one day where I can get up and close with animals and get to pet them and feed them and see all the behind the scenes, that would be so much fun.
It just sounds so smelly.
Yeah.
It probably
Guess
is.
depends on the animal. Yeah.
Yep.
As well.
Yep. Our first topic today, it's a Relevant magazine article titled "Standing Up for Justice Isn't Just About Outrage." Thousands of people across America took to the streets protesting the ICE raids in LA and expressing the anger that many of them felt. This article discusses the tension between righteous anger over injustice and the risk of falling into shallow outrage. Dr. Derwin Gray argues that our anger points to a belief in a better world, one that God desires to restore. This hunger for justice is not just a feeling, but a call to action. Gray says healing can only happen if we're willing to act, and that the good life is a life that answers God's call to make a positive difference in the world. The article emphasizes that this faithful anger doesn't look like viral outrage, but rather the slower, messier work of showing up to serve the vulnerable, support immigrant families, and love our neighbors, even those we disagree with. As Gray explains, true happiness is found in meeting another's need, and happiness is found in healing a hurt. The early church embodied this reality, and Jesus calls us to hunger and thirst for righteousness, which is a way of life, not just a feeling. I really enjoyed this article. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it from the headline
From
at
the
first.
title.
Yeah, but what did you guys think?
I really resonated with it. I'm a fanboy of Dr. Derwin Gray too.
He's
So
amazing,
I love him a lot, and how he thinks and how he sees the world and how he works in the world. So I love that. But I just thought this was such a helpful critique to what's popular and easy in a time where there's so much upside down, there's so much brokenness and challenge in our world. It's so popular, easy to just be ticked off about what's going on and let that outrage just sort of sit with you and simmer with you. And it's so easy just to like share a post that you agree with about this specific issue, and then get likes or shares from that reinforce that you're the good guy and you're not the bad guy, and I'm on the right side of history, and these people see it. And then what actually changes? Nothing. And you're still left with the residue of anger that's not been poured out. And I love his distinction of righteous anger leading you to action towards restoration, not just being ticked off about something.
Right.
Because when you just sit with that ticked off spirit, it doesn't actually discharge into anything. It actually just makes you more miserable and more miserable to be around, because you're just ticked off about everything, right? And all of a sudden you're throwing the ketchup bottle at, your partner, but it has nothing to do with her or him or anything. It's just because you've got this anger that you've not discharged into something good and beautiful, with working for good. So I just connected with it so much. I think it's so easy for us to just make a post, get with some like-minded friends and complain about something. I just don't think that actually leads to anything.
It's much harder, but also more Christ-like, like you were saying, to actually show up and serve or love, or like he was talking about too. When it's inconvenient, right? It's
Always.
Uncomfortable. Like we don't want to do that necessarily, because like you said, it's easier to sit back and just be mad about something or post about it on social media. But the Jesus following thing to do is to figure out how you can actually like make a difference or show up or do something about the thing that you're so mad about, but overall, like I felt challenged by it. I mean, well, we always do, you should, if you call yourself a Jesus follower, I guess, but it's just a reminder that like real justice too is sometimes slow and not necessarily like as fast as we want it to be.
And small.
And
small. Like it's those small acts, right? Yes.
Every day. Yeah. And it's not always loud either. Sometimes it's rooted in these like conversations and these personal, connections that you've made with people. And we don't have to blast every single thing on social media.
Yeah, you said it was small. It's interesting because there was this really smart guy once that said the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed, right? It's like
so
this like
weird.
Little, it's this little small thing. I remember Shane Claiborne, one of my favorite Christian authors and thinkers, said that the kingdom of God grows smaller and smaller and smaller until it actually takes over the world. That's that idea that it's in these small acts of kindness and love and sacrifice and justice that actually move the wheels of history and make a difference. And so I love that so much. Another thing you said that I just connected with so much was in how he talks in the article about actually like justice that goes beyond just outrage is inconvenient and it's slow and it costs you something. And I just think that is just so true about what love actually is. Like we sentimentalize love so much and we make it a feeling, right? Like it's just a feeling. But, in your marriages and raising your kids, like, that love is more than a feeling. It's not just the warm fuzzies. It's actual sacrifice. And love cannot be void of sacrifice. And it's going to be a sacrifice of your comfort, your convenience, your creature comforts and the things that you do and your patterns. And it's going to lead into the land of awkward and all these different kind of things. But love cannot be void of sacrifice. And I think, oh my gosh, here's Jesus. God is love, and here is Jesus who shows us what love is. Doesn't tell us what's love. He doesn't look at humans and go, "I feel warm feelings about you." You know what I mean?
No, because I know he's looking at us and just shaking his head.
But he's going to step in to sacrifice for us, and that's the kind of thing that we get to do in small ways to our neighbors, to people that are different than us, to the family that's confused by language barriers at a grocery store, whatever it might be. That's how we can push back against injustice, because I'm just convinced that just living in the land of outrage where you're honked off all the time and you've drawn the enemy lines and that you're the superior person because you see it differently than they do and you post about it and you get the likes, it just doesn't actually move the world forward. And yes, we should advocate for policy that we think is right and that takes care of the most vulnerable. And yes, we should do that. But you can only do that as a citizen midterm and then general elections, right? So like, what can we be doing in between to love people and to serve people and to not just sit in outrage? I have a friend from college who very, very much an activist in a lot of different ways. I would say that there were times I felt like he was ticked off about a new thing every couple months and then would just ride that wave. That was all he could think about. And he was passionate about it, but man, he was so often so angry and so miserable. And he would even say he was miserable about it. And I mean, I respect that he felt things personally. But man, I think that it doesn't actually move the ball forward. You get sick in the process, and you don't see the world as clear-eyed as you could, and you miss opportunities that are small right in front of you because you can't change who's sitting in the Oval Office at that moment. And I think this is just a much more personal challenge to move beyond outrage. Like it doesn't get the job done when we just stick there and just be mad.
No.
Yeah. Our next topic today, it's a Today Show article titled, "He Lost His Family in a Texas Flood 10 Years Ago. Now He's Volunteering in Kerr County." So just a few weeks ago, we had historic flooding in Texas where families got separated, many people died. But this story is about Jonathan McComb, who knows firsthand the pain of losing loved ones in a natural disaster. In 2015, his wife and 2 young children were killed in historic flooding in Texas. McComb was separated from his family in the floodwaters and nearly gave up, but he ultimately survived. Though his daughter's body was never found, McComb found some solace in a dream where she told him they were okay and had been picked up by a man on the river, whom she identified as Jesus. Now, 10 years after the tragedy, McComb is volunteering with the Texas Search and Rescue Organization to help others who've experienced similar losses. He encourages families to hold on to their memories and faith, as he has done. McComb believes it's important for people to see that there's hope after such devastating events, and he's committed to supporting those going through the worst part of their lives, as he once did. What about this story stuck out to you guys? I can't imagine being in his shoes and doing what he's doing.
I know. When I hear stories like this of people who, have experienced such tragedy and then they turn around and do something good out of it, I'm like, man, I hope that would be me, but ultimately I'm like,
it's hard.
Would it
it's
be
hard
me?
To see
like
yourself
that would
there.
be so hard, I think, to do. So, I'm always blown away because I hope that would be me, but I'm not convinced it would be. But I do think it's amazing that he's able to step back into that same place of tragedy and not to relive it, but to try to redeem it, by walking with others through their suffering, because no one else can speak to this the same way that he can, coming from us, it would just be these empty platitudes of, but with him, he truly knows what they're going through. So, I think that's amazing. I also think that it was a good reminder that healing isn't necessarily about forgetting, what has happened, but transforming that pain into a compassion that he has for people who are going through that. But I thought it was super powerful. And it's just, we talk a lot about a steady faithfulness is how, is a life lived like Jesus, just the constant daily, quiet moments of your life that you're doing things, and he's truly just doing that, which is amazing.
I'm just so inspired by this story, especially coming off the heels of the last couple weeks and hearing the horrendous stories out of Texas. And I'm just inspired by somebody who, like Allison just said, is not letting the worst moment of his life be the defining moment of his life. And in a way, after, having the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to him and experience this hope and this, through this vision and dream of, his daughter, knowing that his family are now in the arms of Jesus. But on the other side of that, wanting to meet people in that moment and to restore and redeem and let them know, hey, I've been here and this is not, the end of the story. It's so powerful. And it's, in these kind of tragic moments and big and small ways in our lives that I know so many people wrestle with this idea, why would God make this happen? Or why would God allow this to happen? I think is a question that we ask often, especially around natural disasters. I think it's in my understanding and where I am just theologically, how I think about God, I don't believe that God caused this to happen. I don't think God looked down in Texas and goes, here's what's happening this weekend. But I do believe that that God will use terrible things, and he loves to use terrible things to bring hope and good out of it. I can't look at the cross and the death of Jesus without seeing that, right? And so, God is never the author of evil, but God will, in his creative, loving way, bring good things out of the worst things that can happen to our lives if we allow him to, and if we welcome him into those situations. And so I love that Jonathan McComb gets to be a small part of that, meeting people on the worst day of their lives to let them know that this is not the end of the story. And, it's probably just a great reminder for all of us of how God will never waste a hurt, and he'll never waste the worst things that happen to us to bring good things out of. I mean, this is how so many amazing things have started and been birthed in our world because of the terrible things that happen, and somebody restoring and redeeming and making sense out of that pain that they experienced. So, usually I think it's Frederick Buechner, Presbyterian pastor and author from the early 1900s, said something along the lines of that your greatest mission in life will intersect with your deepest pain. And it's in those places that you can make the biggest impact. So it's a great reminder for all of us to not wallow in our pain, but to let God use it for good wherever it is. That could be a broken marriage and a divorce that you went through. That could be a cancer journey, or maybe a loss to somebody that you love from cancer. That could be addiction and something that God is helping you overcome. It could be so many different things, but whatever your deepest pain is, to see is there a way that God can use this for good? Because man, he does. And then we're blown away by stories like this. I'm also reminded of Mr. Rogers, who always said, whenever there's a tragedy, what do you say?
Helpers.
Look for the helpers, right? I feel like that has got to be a call for those of us who want to be Jesus followers, is to be helpers and look for the helpers, because that brings hope, right?
Yeah. This is just one beautiful way that someone chose to bring the up there down here, and
instead of letting the down there come up here, right? Yes.
And I mean, not that the tragedy was a gift, but him being able to use this to help others is a wonderful gift. Like Alice and I were saying, I don't know if I could be in the same situation and do what he's doing, but the way that he's able to is just incredible, and that he can, talk to Today's Show about this, and it's just awesome. Yeah. So our next question is, what is your favorite place you've ever visited?
This was another hard one.
Yeah.
Well, you've been all over the world in that. So,
I mean, you've been a lot of places too, but a lot of places that I've been are special for different moments, and maybe not because of the actual place, but maybe the people I was with or whatever happened. So when I was thinking about places, I was like, was it actually the place that I loved, what was it about that? But
the prophet Dave Matthews once said, it's not where, but who you're with that really matters. As he's spoken with wisdom.
Yes,
that makes sense.
I'm familiar with them. But anyways, one I guess journey that I went on was up the M22, which is a highway up the western coast of Michigan, and it just takes you through all these super small towns along that highway, but the views are amazing. There's the Sleepy Bear National Dunes are up there as well, and just all these quaint little charming
beach
towns.
And, so
mom
cool.
and pop restaurants and stores that I love so much.
It's my favorite Starbucks I ever went to. Just kidding.
Well, no. But
cool.
Yeah, there's just so many, there's one town that's a unique or a historic fishing village, and then the next town you come to is, next to the dunes, and you're like, what? I just drove not very far, but anyways, that whole drive was just, I loved it.
Michigan's amazing.
It really is. It's the whole country
I do.
in a state that's just right north to us. I was telling somebody the other day that it's wild that 2 hours from my front door, I can look out on the west coast of Lake Michigan and feel like I'm looking out over the California coast.
Yeah.
Looking over the ocean is what it feels like. Right? It's amazing. For me, I thought about this for a while, and I've been to New York City twice now, and I would never want to live there. It's just too sprawling, too big for me. But like, I love visiting New York City. There is something about, it feels like the world in a zip code. And I know it's more than one zip code, but like just walking down a street, whether it be in the borough of Brooklyn, in just coffee shop, to get a piece of pizza at a pizzeria, to like, you know, get a cocktail or a drink someplace else. And like, you're just like walking down in like so many different cultures, and you were just in this incredible melting pot. And somehow, I'm not saying there's no warts to it, but somehow people can like live together and figure it out and be neighbors to each other. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I know that, but like, it is just so cool. And I've every time that I've been struck by the amount of, artistic culture that's there, from Broadway to like some of the world's famous, you know, big musical venues like Madison Square Garden, you know, all those different kind of things, the cultural difference that you just feel like everywhere you look, you know, you can, the Turkish place, and then over here is a world-class Mexican taqueria, you know what I mean? So cool. And then the reality of Central Park, like, and then like you get to this place in the city where it's like miles and miles and miles of just beautiful park in the middle of the city, right?
Really
you know,
is.
so and honestly, I was moved. I did the touristy thing with my wife a couple years ago, and went on the ferry to see the Statue of Liberty, and then like the history of that, and knowing all the different kinds of people that came to our country looking for a new start in a place that would accept them, where they could build a life for themselves. And it was very moving. So I'll say this, like, I never felt like more like proud to be an American than when I was in New York City, knowing all of the difference that's there, and people getting together and making it make sense, and knowing that. So I love the city. It's got some juice to it. There's an energy to it, and of course, like,
it's got some smells to it.
It's got some smells as well. And when, you know, got a piece of pizza once, and I totally saw a rat take off with, and I did not tell my wife about it because she would not have sat down and had the pizza. But there's just some energy to it. Like when I'm like about to want to fall asleep, I felt like the city was just waking up, and I'm like, oh, I'm not made for this. I can visit it. So I love New York City. Yeah.
That's awesome. Growing up, me and my family went camping a lot, and me and my husband still love camping. And the place that I always am returning to is Hocking Hills, Ohio. It's just a beautiful park in the middle of Ohio, and they've got waterfalls and caves. And
I've seen lots of TikToks, Instagram.
It does look beautiful.
Yeah. But I just love going there. And I mean, I've camped pretty much only in Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan when I was younger, and it's my favorite place that I always want to return to. I need to branch out a little bit more, but I'm like, I like this part.
Right.
Let's keep going back.
There's two sides of the branching out thing. Like, if it's a place that you just feel so comfortable and peace with, it's like, do I want to go try something that maybe I won't feel that peace?
Right. Exactly.
But also, there's so many places in the world, roll the dice.
I need to go out west, but I don't know if I have the hiking legs to do some of the trails.
The elevation, I feel like, oh, nope, my lungs can't handle it.
Yep. Our final article today, it's a Christianity Today article titled, My Deconstruction Turned to Deconversion, but God Wasn't Anxious. Lindsay Hollifield grew up believing that God was distant, disapproving, and terrifying, like an angry preacher who yells at the congregation from the pulpit. At just 15, she started questioning her faith and wanting to escape from this version of Christianity. Years later, she started attending a synagogue and converted to Reform Judaism. It was around then that a friend reached out to just talk and answer questions that Lindsay had about Jesus. That call sent her on a search for who Jesus really is. Months followed where she tried to push away the beliefs of her childhood to understand Jesus' love. Lindsay says, I hold Jesus to be the answer and the most beautiful one that exists. But if you cannot yet affirm that beauty, I trust that God is not anxious about you. Therefore, I am not either. I just love this. This is a pretty long story, so this is a super abridged version. You
got to check out the full story in the show notes. It's so powerful.
Yeah, read the full story. But what did you guys think of Lindsay's story?
I loved it. I was really moved by it. There are some similarities, you know, even in my story growing up in a more rigid, fundamental type of Christianity. And I thought of it from so many different angles too, like some of the anxiety I feel for my own children, and just some of the anxiety that I feel for them being pastors' kids and all that comes along with that, and wanting them so deeply to know and trust and follow Jesus, but also not wanting to push it in a way that pushes them away. And something my wife and I have talked about so many times is, how do we present to them a version of faith that they don't have to heal from, you know? And it's just so near and dear to my heart just right now, and just thinking about raising our kids. But I was so moved from this language of, you know, even when I was anxious about it, realizing that God wasn't. And just that kind of trust that God is good and that God writes a long story and God's bigger than the questions that you can ask. And this is not an argument that can be won or a math equation that can be solved, but it's a journey and a relationship. So I thought it was so beautiful. And I connected with what the author said about, you know, feeling like starting to question faith and then wanting to escape a version that you felt like was harmful or untrue. Because I talked to friends that are now maybe deconverted from Christianity or are atheists. And man, one of the things I feel like I say so often is, man, whenever we talk about those things, it's like, yeah, I don't believe in that God either. You know, like I'm an atheist to that kind of a God. Either that's not what I'm on. That's not what I'm about. That's not who I see Jesus to be, and sort of apologizing for something that's not the real thing. And so just connect with her heart so much. And again, it's inspiring to see her not just throw it away, but do the work and to be open throughout the whole journey from, you know, going to Judaism and then, you know, having a faithful, patient friend who just asked questions and answered questions. I love so much about it.
Yeah. Cause like, you know, she talked about how her childhood faith was shaped by fear and judgment. And I get why she ran from that, right? Like, who wouldn't? I would also not want to be a part of that. But, yeah, what kind of stood out to me was how it just kind of gently unfolded, you know, to be this natural kind of organic thing that she didn't, she, you know, kind of turned away, but she was still open to the idea that like, oh, maybe he is pursuing me, or maybe there is something there, you know, so that way when she had this moment that she has, then she was more receptive to that than just being like, no, this is absolutely not a thing, you know? So I'm sure that was not easy for her to kind of untangle all of this and kind of rediscover the beauty of Jesus for herself and not just what she was handed as a child. We talk about that a lot around here, but figuring out what your faith looks like as an adult. But, and then, like you mentioned with her friend, you know, it wasn't through like peer pressure
arguments,
or debate or, you know,
see this video.
Exactly. But just someone who would simply show up and just listen to probably her try to process everything that she was going through and didn't, you know, shame her or judge her, but just sat with her in the, you know, mess of it all. That is so beautiful. So
absolutely.
And this friend didn't come in guns a-blazing to convert her. She was being a good friend who followed Jesus, like not somebody who's like, you're my target. I must can still get you. Friends. I can get you. I'm going to get you. And I'm only friends with you so that I get you. And it just wasn't that at all. Which I'm just imagining, like her friend, she probably grew in her faith through this experience. And she truly loved Lindsay through this and not just saw her as a target or somebody she needed to convert, which again is high pressure. It's got it's got sales vibes. It's got
we don't like
fear and shame vibes into it as well. And so I just thought that even from her friend, who we don't really get her perspective in the story, but seeing her just show up and answer questions, ask questions, I'm sure her faith grew. And then also she got to love her friend and see this. There's a buddy of mine that we've been friends for about 4 years now, who recently got baptized at our church. And when I met him, he said that he was a practicing Buddhist. And I remember I asked him to get coffee a couple weeks into us meeting. And so we sit down at this little coffee shop, and the first thing he says is, "So what's your angle, pastor?" I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, "What are you trying to do to me?" And I'm like, "Dude, my angle is friendship." And it was really special to me, because when he was sitting in the baptism tank that Sunday morning, he goes, "This is all because of friendship, right?" You know, that's what he said back to me as we were sitting there. And it was, you know, because it was a long journey. If I was out just to get a quick sale,
4 years ain't it?
Man, I would give it up on that. But it was friendship, and seeing what God can do through that is so so cool.
Yeah. It also reminds me too that she talks about how, God wasn't panicked in the process, because sometimes this journey back to Jesus, if you've turned away or you feel like church turned away from you, is a long process. It's not like a quick trying to figure it out.
You can't sum it up in a 2-hour movie. No.
And that's okay, And so I think her story just kind of reminds us or invites us to be patient with ourselves and with other people. Like if we have friends, like, her friend had her, that, being patient is the goal. Like it's not a quick process.
And there's this guy in the New Testament that said something about love being patient, right? Love is patient.
And
love is kind. If you've been to a wedding, you've heard it before.
I thought you were going to be like another Dave Matthews. I was like,
it's Apostle Paul. Apostle Paul, then Dave Matthews. But it is interesting because love is patient, right? Love is not quick to get our own thing and to use our timeline. And I'm just reminded of that again. It's almost a through line through some of these stories today, is that love it's going to cost us something, and love is not on our timeline. So I think that's a really cool thing.
So what would you say to people on both sides, both someone who's questioning faith and someone who's friends or family members with someone who is?
I'd start with if you have maybe a child, a spouse, a family member, a dear friend, someone who's deconstructed faith or maybe walked away from attending church, I would say patience is a really great word for you. Like patience and trusting that God's writing a story. If you put all this pressure on you to get them back because you're so afraid that they're going to go to hell and it's going to be, you just didn't get them to cross this line, you're going to be eaten alive. And you're also going to present a version of faith to them that is fear-based, because they're going to see the fear in you. And it's not going to be attractive. And they might say yes for the wrong reason. They might say yes because they want you to feel better. And then what kind of yes is that? Is that really like,
it's not a true yes?
Do we think that God's like, that one's in? That's, you know what I mean? Like
your heart's in the right place.
So you
for
can
sure.
do more damage than good if you come at it with like heat and vitriol and YouTube videos or read this book. I think patient friendship, I think it's also part of friendship is to share about what's going on in your life and the difference that God makes in your life. And you can be like, many times I've talked to somebody and I've been like, I know you probably think this is nuts, but for me, and I'll talk about a way that faith intersects with a hard part of my life. And for them to see the real thing, that's the best thing you can do. And God's not anxious. And so therefore you shouldn't walk into the story with anxiety. To someone who is, maybe you would say you're deconstructing or you're, walking away from faith, whatever that looks like. I would say go on the journey. Like, I don't have anxiety about people deconstructing if they're in relationship with Christians. And I do say to people that would say they're deconstructing, like, talk to some real people. Don't just go down what the internet's saying, because you get on an algorithm and then you won't ever hear another side of the conversation. But go on the journey. Ask the big questions. I truly believe any big question that somebody is asking about the Bible and Christianity in 2025, you are not original in asking this question. And there have been people that have walked away from faith because of their answer to that question, and there have been people that have stuck in the game because of an answer they found to that question. So ask the big questions. Find a safe person to talk to about it, people that are inside and outside of faith. But God is not intimidated by your questions and the tensions you feel. He's not intimidated by it. So I feel like you can ask it, learn from it, and who knows what might happen in that. Maybe for you, you'll find that there's no there. And then maybe for you to be like, oh man, I said no and I walked away from a false version of this thing. And man, for me, that's some of my story and why I'm still in the game, is because I realized that I was wanting to walk away from something that wasn't the real thing. And so I love talking to people about that. And if that is you, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to sit down and buy you a cup of coffee and just talk with you and let you know that you're not alone, and try to give you at least my take. I don't have like all the answers to everything, but how I sort of try to square some of these things, because I don't want you to be alone, and you're loved no matter what.
Well, that's it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any topics or questions, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Atypical Talk Pod. And make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.